Hi, I'm Brent Haiti, mentor, coach, and ideal life architect with One Wave Life, and this is Calm Waters, the podcast about creating freedom, experiencing balance, and living a rewarding life while also growing a thriving and successful business. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. All right, I am here today talking with Kerry Sparrowe. I'm very excited to be talking with you today and hearing a little bit about your story and your path along the continuum of the lifespan of a business owner. So welcome, Kerry. Good to talk to you today.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm pretty excited to do this.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Well, let's get underway. Before we, really dive into your story and that, I'd love to hear just a little bit about you, a little bit about the work that you do, the business you have, and what fuels your passion about it. So tell us a little bit about what you do and the business that you work with and you work for. We'll build from there.
All right. I am currently in financial services. So I am an agent with World Financial Group, and I've been doing this for about 5 years. And I switched over from a hairstylist. I did that for about 25 years. And I had to stop doing that because I've got a daughter that's quite sick. She's medically fragile and she needed my help. So I wasn't able to do hair full time anymore. I had to be by her side. So
Yeah.
can't really do something terrible doing that.
So the need to leave an occupation for family and absolutely when it comes down to priorities, then that makes that probably a relatively easy choice to make. But what what then drew you into financial services and the work you're doing now?
Well, yeah, it was an easy decision, but hard as well because you need that second income, right?
Yeah.
And so I went a few years without doing any work at all. And we were drowning financially. And I actually had a friend who said, well, why don't you do this on the side? Like you can do it on your computer, and I'm like, I do not do numbers. And but we were drowning financially. And the one thing he said is, if anything, you'll learn how to get yourself out of debt and maybe you'll be able to help yourself going forward. And that was the key takeaway for me. And I was like, you know what? I don't know anything financial and I don't know how to read my statements. And yeah, you're right, because we are drowning because we went from two incomes down to one. And as I was studying and going through the courses, I fell in love with the information that I didn't know prior to that.
Right,
So
right.
all these little tax secrets and how to use life insurance as opposed to needing life insurance. And I still believe people need life insurance for sure. And I've got a powerful story for that as well. But I just, I realized how unprepared I was for life and life
Mhm.
situations. And it made sense to me how I got, or how we as a family got into the situation that we were in. It made sense to me finally how even growing up as a child, how we were in those situations because we did the roller coaster as a young family. We were through the 80s and all that stuff. So I just got really passionate about teaching people. Did you know this? Did you know that? Did you know this? And that's how I became passionate about it. So now my goal is to save people money wherever I can and make sure they're properly protected for life's curveballs.
I love it. I love it. That's wonderful. Isn't it cool when someone else, a friend, simply opens the door to an opportunity, something that you never would have thought of before.
Yeah.
You never would have considered. And even then, it sounds like you didn't necessarily even know until you started to go down that path and begin that learning process to realize that, yeah, this is something that you have become more and more passionate about. And
Yeah.
you'll learn and apply it in your own world, but at the same time, have now begun to have that impact on others and
Yeah.
other families and other individuals.
Yeah, I had zero intention of doing the business, but just learning for my own use. And now I've got a team and agents that work under myself. And it's just crazy how it just flipped.
So what has that meant to you so far in terms of you mentioned leaving the career as a hairstylist, needing to be home, so needing to have some freedom of time, freedom of ability to be there for your family, um, and shifting into this new career. Then what has that now meant to you? What has it given you in terms of being able to live, a life the way that you want it, and more of it perhaps over time? Um, Tell us
Well, you
about,
just said,
that part of it, please.
yeah, it's freedom, like you just said. It's the ability to make my own decisions, um, work when I can. My daughter's had, I think, 4 hospital visits, like 4 hospital stays this year alone, or last year, I should say. Um, and I had the option and the choice to not work. I didn't have to ask permission to take time off. I didn't have to make sure somebody could cover me. Um, but I also had the option to work at hospital, like bedside,
Yeah,
if I wanted to. And that freedom, just being your own boss and an entrepreneur
yeah.
is life changing. Um, just being able to be there guilt free.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's one of those struggles that many business owners have, whether it's a child in need and you needing to be away from work to do so, or whether it's maybe an aging parent in need,
Yeah. And I've got both.
for different reasons, but it's the same kind of stress that we tend to put on ourselves, right?
Yep.
So to be able to then have some of that flexibility, some of that freedom, so that you can continue to work, so that you can leave it when you need to leave it, or you can have it with you.
Yeah.
um I mean, you've shared with me before about your daughter and some of the challenges that she's facing, and that you do end up with some hospital stays, and you do end up
Yeah.
with some time that you obviously need to be at home in being a mom,
Hmm.
and how you find a way to balance that with your work and your career. And so how has that been for you lately, and even into the recent past, I guess, from the standpoint of there's that time balance there for your daughter and for yourself. How about for yourself, for your work? How about for yourself in other areas? What does that look like, and how is that currently working for you? I know it's not
Well,
necessarily always working all the time, but
yeah, it doesn't always work all the time. Um, First thing I had to do was let go of the word balance and realize that it's more of a teeter totter than that goes up and down rather than straight across, right? And you're
yeah,
never going to have that perfect balance. It's always going to be up and down on the sides. And as soon as I just came to terms with that some days are going to be crazy and some days are going to be easy peasy and relaxing. And I mean, not
yeah,
too many of those days, but they're just not as hectic, right? Um, so I had to come to terms with that. And scheduling, got to schedule time. If it's not in my calendar, it doesn't happen. So I find that makes a huge difference. I also got diagnosed with ADHD this year. And so there's a few things that I'm like, oh, that makes sense now because I can't help it. But scheduling is huge for
yeah,
trying to create as much balance as you can. Because you still got to be a mom to your other kids. If you've got kids, you still got to be a spouse. Um, Business owner and
yeah,
mentor, mentee. I'm still learning, and I still have a coach and somebody I look up to. So it's it's hard, but I find the calendar to be the best friend.
we take
So
on many roles. Some out of necessity, some it's just where we're at, and others because we choose to. And thank you
yeah,
for, for saying you don't look at it any longer as balance the way that so many people tend to define it, which is
yeah,
equal parts work, equal parts life or home. And it really isn't. And it really is something that is so unique to each and every person. And the teeter totter, that's, I like that
yeah,
way of it, because some days it's more one, some days more than the other, but it's also, even just like you say, it's not just two things. It's not work and life. It's not work and home. It's your whole life. And
yeah.
in your whole life, there are many different, like you said, different roles that you take on, from spouse to parent of more than one child, to work and work mentor and work, self-employee, and all of these other things that are there. And there's probably
Yeah.
many more for you, as there are for many others that were even
Yeah,
said.
and then still being a child of aging parents too, right?
And then there's
Like,
that too, right?
yeah.
So it really becomes kind of more of that ebb and flow of using your calendar well.
Mhm.
And when you can use it well, it allows you to focus where you want and where you need to focus. So
Yeah.
so I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the way that you have, the way that you operate your life right now probably wasn't always the way that it is.
No.
With some smooth and easy days and other days that are, just kind of exasperating. So when things weren't going so well, what were some of the, if you don't mind sharing a little bit, tell us about some of the struggles that you faced, and how you ultimately uh, found your way to
Found my way through
overcoming
it.
them, to addressing them, to taking the steps that you did.
Probably one of the worst times was when my daughter got diagnosed. She was about 2.5, and she had been sick for a couple of years, and we went through, doctors not believing us, I guess I can say it. That's how we felt. We felt not unheard,
Mm.
and pushed aside. And you're just comparing her to your first child, and so it was a 2.5 year struggle until we got a diagnosis. And I don't know if the diagnosis changed anything, but it just helped things make sense and gave us like direction of where to go for support.
Yeah.
Um, but in that was also my marriage was falling apart as well. So
Mm.
we ended up getting a divorce, and it was really tough. And I was struggling with the kids, going through divorce, and needing the girls at home with me. Um, Actually, my lawyer was like, this is the first time I've had where a dad was actually arguing with all the time that you're giving them, and he wants less time. And I'm like, I know. That was tough to deal with, but um, I started doing some exercise. I was leaning on friends a lot.
Yeah.
And uh, thank God for them, because they were probably so sick and tired of hearing me talk about my divorce and my sick kid and all this stuff. But my friends really came together and really, really helped. And so thank you to all of them. Um,
Absolutely. Friends are, when you have difficulties as you went through,
yeah.
um, the people that matter most, the truest of friends, they're never going to get sick of you talking about your
I don't
divorce or the
know.
challenges with the kids. They
Yeah.
might play with it a little bit, but at the end of the day, they're the ones that got your back. They're
Yeah.
the ones that are there for whatever you need. And it sounds
Yeah.
like that's the way it was for you. And that's so important to have. And I'm so
And
glad that you had that for you.
yeah. And I also ended up meeting my fiance now. We've been together, I think this year will be our 13th year. But met him just shortly after, and he was actually going through a very similar thing with fresh divorce, and
Mm.
we ended up actually bonding over that together. And when our divorces were both final around the same time, we were like, gosh, what are we going to talk about now? Still going strong. So that helped too,
Nice.
just leaning on people and
Yeah.
family as well, and getting that exercise for the mental break.
Yeah. That's another important piece. And it's one that um often as a caregiver, we tend to put ourselves last.
Yeah.
And therefore, if time is needed here or there, then there'll always be time later or another day, or I'll do it tomorrow when it comes to health and self-care. But yeah, it's that old kind of cliche story that we say about, when you go on the airplane and the flight
Yeah.
attendant is having the in case of emergency, and the face masks come down.
Yeah.
Who do you put it on first? Yourself, because if you're not able to breathe and not able to be there in a good functioning way, you can't possibly be there for your family. And
That's
this
so
is kind of
true.
no
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. And I felt like I was heading there, right? I was just falling apart. I was having these nervous breakdowns and anxiety. And I also suffer from depression. And um, I think I had postpartum as well, undiagnosed, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So there was a lot. And I was like, I am not a good parent right now. I was yelling at my kids and yelling at people. And so it had to be a conscious decision. And again, time in the calendar, you
Yeah,
know, workout time, even if it was just going for a walk, getting out of the house,
yeah.
got to book that in for yourself, put yourself first. So,
Yes. There's going through a lot of those things, and hearing as you describe them, there's kind of the logistics of things, after when your divorce was underway and you were starting to realize um, the the split parenting or not, or you're going to be, doing the majority of it, if not all of it, yourself. How is this going to work in my world? Like you said earlier, the shift in career because of that. But then there's just the whole emotional side of things with your daughter, with not with both of your daughters, with um what's going on, and relationships absolutely become that key. It's a heavy burden to take on all in oneself.
yeah.
Self-care, absolutely. um Progress along the way. So from those moments of when these big changes were happening on many fronts, with your daughter, with your now ex, with your job shifting over to your career, were there were there were there stepping stone points or milestone points along the way that you felt you were able to feel a little more comfortable, feel a little stronger, breathe a little more, experience a bit more freedom, or anything like that?
Um, I think so. Probably with each kind of milestone, like um, finally coming to an agreement with the divorce for sure. That
Mm.
was a breather.
Yeah,
Um, just getting that off and done. Like these are the rules. This is what we have to follow.
yeah.
Um, was nice. That that allowed me to relax a lot. Um,
Imagine any
also,
time that you get to take something sort of off the plate that's emotionally and time draining, um,
yeah,
becomes a bit of a weight off the shoulders, right?
yeah, and financially.
That
Yeah,
too, yes,
yeah.
of course.
And the career switch made a huge, huge difference. I also felt because I went that 4 or 5 years without doing any work at all, and um, I really felt like I lost who I was, and I needed something just for me. So I was actually looking for something, but I didn't really realize I was looking for something,
Yeah.
right? Kind of fallen apart. And that gave me freedoms. I was able to put some caregivers in place for my daughter, which was really nice. And
Yeah.
um, so that gave me freedom and some balance. And I really did feel like I was actually a person again instead of just mom and wife and
Yeah.
child. And like, yeah, it was something that was just for me. And I still feel like that every day. Like, okay, this is just mine, and I can do this, and I can do what I want with it, and um, it makes
Are
me
they
happy.
are they little
Something.
moments that you have that return to feeling, okay, I'm doing this for me, or this is all about me, or do you purposely create time now and then um, to do things just for you, and maybe they're work related or
I have
business related, but away
Yeah,
from?
yeah, I have to purposely create the time,
Yeah,
just because it's like I'm with caring for my daughter all the time, whether it's phone calls, medical phone
yeah,
calls,
yeah,
preparing things, and the staffing is a whole job all on its own with payroll and
yeah,
scheduling and stuff like that. So if I don't carve out that time, I
yeah.
just never will. So I think it is just so, so important. Like carve out a date night every week or
Mhm.
two, once a month, even if you can't do it. And it doesn't have to be going out for an expensive meal. Who can afford that these days? But
Doesn't have to
um,
be, no.
doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Just go for a drive and have a picnic or something.
So
Yeah.
over the past, say, month or two or so, what's the favorite thing that you did for you
Well,
recently?
I just got my hair done today, so that was for me.
Nice.
That was, and that's something I've been neglecting for a year too, right? Because it's just been like, I'm just too busy. And I was like, nope, I've had it. I need to get it done. So,
And
and
that's the pampering oneself, or doing
Mhm.
something for oneself. And I focus on this with clients when we talk about celebrating our successes.
Yeah,
To do something that you don't always do, or you haven't done in a long time, because that's what makes it special. That's what makes it stand out. If you always go to Starbucks and get a fancy latte, then it's not so special when you say, I'm going to go do
and it's
that.
not so special.
It's
Yeah.
not so special anymore, right? So
I even celebrate going to get the mail. Just because it's at the end of my block, so it's my 2 to 3 minutes of just walking and being by
yeah,
myself in the chaos of the house. There's five of us in here,
yeah,
family, plus one or two staff all the time, and I'm
yeah.
like
Is
just
it been a kind of
the
Zen
joy of
time
that.
for you to get
It
away
is,
and just, yeah,
yeah.
beautiful. And
So
there
I
you
really,
go. Simple as
really
that,
suggest
right?
it to people. Just go get the mail.
Yeah,
Don't look at it as a chore.
yeah. Yeah, that's, you know what, and that's a really good point, because certain things that can be chores that
Yeah.
we can choose to make it kind of meditative in a certain sense, and we can just kind of
Yeah.
get into a space where you can just let everything go. You can do whatever it is you're going to be doing. Get the mail. Um, uh, Doing dishes, for instance, is something for me like that,
Gosh.
and
Yes.
you don't really have to think about it. You don't even have to focus on it. You're just doing it, but you can just be in a bit of a space where you're kind of letting go, clearing your mind, and it has a super powerful beneficial effect, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, you do have more than one child.
Yeah.
I was wanting to ask you then, um, when when you've got a child with special needs, and I've got a couple of close friends that do as well, and I know that it certainly requires a whole lot of extra time and attention. And sometimes your other children, however many one has, can uh,
They feel
feel
neglected.
maybe like they're being left out,
Yeah,
or
they do. They feel
they're
neglected. You can
independent
say
on their own. And so, so what do you have some secrets that you can share, or some things that you like to do or doing more and more of over some time that help you to, to make sure you're being mom to child number one and make sure you're being mom to child number two, each in their own.
Yeah, they, as much as you try and let them have a, I'm going to use the word normal life or typical life, I guess. I know people don't like that word normal, but I'm not going to be fluffy here.
However it
Um,
works for you.
the siblings need to have that. Um, and we've gone to therapy quite a bit with the other kids and stuff, right? But she definitely needs to feel as normal as possible, but she also has to realize that she does not have a normal life either. And so she missed out on a lot. So I try and do some special things with her once in a while. Like it unfortunately doesn't happen as often as we want,
Yeah.
especially now that she's older and working and I'm working. We actually have to make the effort even more. Before she was working, when she was just in school and stuff, we would actually carve out some time every week and we would watch Grey's Anatomy. So like from
Okay.
season 1 up
Yeah.
until, I don't know, 16, 17, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And that was our time. And we would have our snacks on the couch
Yeah.
and watch our show and talk about it and cry together sometimes during the show. And that was our time. So
Nice.
it was good. And yeah,
Doesn't necessarily matter what it is, but it's special,
it's
you and her
something.
time and
Yeah.
your time together, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I get that. Love that. Love that. Um, so now as you are looking ahead, um, where are you headed next? What's going to take you into the future? Any specific things you're focusing on around your work or your life with your family that will help you to simply live more of the lifestyle that you want and be the person that you want and have that happiness and that joy that we all deserve to have.
Well, still growing my business, still
Yeah.
growing my agency, and that gives me joy. Also scary. And we're actually now we're kind of planning our downsizing routine. And we
Okay.
started, then we had another kid that moved back home after he was out for a while. So we're like, oh, we feel like we've taken a step backwards. But that actually gives us joy just to look at places. So it's different for our situation with a kid in a wheelchair. You got to make sure everything's
Sure.
wheelchair accessible
Sure.
and
Yeah.
not that easy to find an existing home, but we still have fun looking and planning for that. So growing the business, trying to downsize. Maybe one day all the kids will move out. So there's quite a few, but because
Eventually.
Joe's got 3 kids himself, and then I've got a stepson with my first husband. So
Gotcha. Yeah.
um, yeah, it just keeps us motivated. We love to travel, and we're able to do that a little bit more now.
Yeah.
Brooklyn's dad will take her for those times, which we're grateful for. And we've got some amazing staff now in place.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's helpful.
So, next dream destination, if you were to be able to
Oh,
leave somewhere next week, where would that be?
I think Greece.
Greece?
Yeah.
What about
Yeah.
Greece appeals to you? Anything particular that you think, oh,
Beaches, the
yeah,
history, all of it. The
nice.
town. I love the history of learning about different places
Yeah,
and yeah. And we love beaches. And
nice.
we want to go to Africa too, do some safaris and stuff like that. So
Love
a
it.
few
I'm
years,
with you on
some
that
big,
one
big
too.
trips, but we're hoping to take the family to
That's,
Africa.
oh,
We'll
beautiful. Well, I hope one in before too long you do get to do exactly that.
thank
Yeah.
you.
So if you were to give some advice to someone out there who maybe has a young one at home with some additional needs and support and focus, maybe has an aging parent who is also started to have some additional needs, or maybe is struggling in their relationship and might be headed down the path of it splitting up. One or two kind of key tips that you might be able to offer that you went through, that you learned from, that you wish you knew then, but kind of had to figure it out along the way in one form or another. What might
Don't be
they be?
afraid. Yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Ah,
Yeah. No, don't be proud. Don't be secretive. Don't
yeah,
think that you're not allowed to share your struggles.
yeah,
Um, don't think that people don't want to hear it. They do. There's people out there willing to help.
yeah,
If you have an aging parent, like if you're a caregiver in any aspect, um, being a child caregiver or parent caregiver,
yeah,
there's government help out there. Ask for it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, doing
They
do your
it's
homework
help.
and finding
Yeah,
that out. People can point you in the right direction. It
yeah.
might be the
Get a
people that,
social worker.
yeah, it
They
might be
know
your
these
friend, it
things
might be
and they're
people
there
you
to
know,
help
maybe
you.
not, right? The
Yeah,
social
they're there to.
workers,
And if you don't get along with your social worker, just ask for another one. It's okay. Ask
yeah,
for help. That's what I would say. And it's okay to have your breakdowns at least once a month. I have a massive breakdown and I cry on the kitchen floor by myself and I'm
yeah,
like just wailing and bawling. And it's amazing how good it feels afterwards
yeah,
to just release all that.
yes.
It's better to do it that way than out on your loved ones.
Not to hold it in.
So,
You bet.
yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing those, because a lot of people, I think, um, don't ask for help.
So
And
many.
when you think about business owners, we're kind of hardwired to not appear vulnerable, not to let our guard down, not to ask for help. We should be able to do it ourselves, figure it out ourselves. And that same mentality carries over into our personal lives.
Yeah.
Yet if we get past that, like you say, oh, it opens a floodgate of potential support.
Yeah, especially in business. So many business owners have made mistakes and they know what not to do. They might not know what to do,
Yeah.
but they know what not to do.
Yeah.
And that's huge, right? And just asking people,
Yeah.
help me. This is where I'm at.
Yeah. Love it. And um when it comes to oh, I'm drawing a blank. I was just going to ask you something about what you just said.
All right.
That's
Business
okay.
owners asking for help.
We'll come back to that in a moment, maybe. Um, the path is everybody's path is so unique, right? And I like asking those questions because although someone won't have the exact same experiences and be in the same situations as you, there'll be things that someone will hear and go, oh, that's similar. I can take that and I can apply it in my own world. And we do need to learn from the experiences of others. No, no one person has all the answers. No one person can possibly do it all. Hence like your suggestion in terms of leaning on others and asking for that support. But um, when we do so, and when we are open to it, then hopefully it can make that path a little easier. And when we hit those milestone moments, when we achieve some of the goals and make some of the progress we've got, take some of the weight off of our shoulders, allows us to live more and more of the life that we want. And a first step is probably leading towards a life that's a little more normal, like you say, and having
Mhm.
key relationships and the experiences that you want. And then it progresses on to something else. Um, that's what it's all about. So thank you for sharing all that you did today. And you know, thank you for your openness about what you've been through. Just in the time that I've known you, which hasn't been all that long now, I see and I know a extremely positive person, but at the same time, I also know that there are times and days when you struggle, and when we all when you lean on others, that they're there for you, and that works. So I wanted to kind of finish off with maybe one last question.
Sure.
And that is leading into our discussion here today. You may have thought, I wonder if he's going to ask or bring up this. I wonder if he's going to talk about this particular thing. So, and maybe we didn't. So the question simply is this: what is the answer to the one question you had hoped I was going to ask about today, but I did not? Is there anything that you wanted to add to the conversation that we didn't quite get to?
I think you were pretty thorough. My goodness. I think the last question was good. Like, just the one piece of advice. My thing is, I just ask for help.
Yeah.
And just wanted to read it. So I'm glad you asked that. But I don't think you asked anything.
Okay.
No, I think you did pretty good.
Covered it all. All right. Awesome. So
Yeah.
we'll leave it at that for today. Thank you again for sharing and for having this conversation. If there's a listener out there and they would like to reach out to you around your financial services and talking to you about how you might be able to help them, coming from your professional and your personal perspective, then in our show notes and our discussion on the podcast, I'll include your email so somebody can reach out to you that way if that works for you.
Perfect.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, thank you
for having me.
We will call it a day today. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to talking again soon.
Thank you, Brent.
Well, that's it for today's episode. Thanks for listening. I hope you have at least one new insight that you can take away and apply to your business or your life right now, and that you've been inspired to rise above the waves of stress, overwhelm, or unhappiness that currently crash down all around you. I hope the message of today's podcast has motivated you to harness the power within those waves so that you can redirect them and begin to ride wave after wave of change towards the calm waters of a thriving business and a life you love. In our One Wave Global community, you'll find our members are just like you. They share many of the same challenges that you face. They want to create and live their version of the One Wave lifestyle at work and at home. And they love the form of mutual support that our community brings. Come check us out at onewaveglobal.com. And if you feel the need for a higher level of direct personal coaching, then contact me through our website at onewavelife.com. Till next time, be healthy, be happy, and live fully.